What do you think happens when we die, Keanu Reeves?
I know that the ones who love us will miss us.
Have you ever wondered how someone loved by the whole world could still carry some of the deepest pain imaginable? At 61, Keanu Reeves isn't just the hero from The Matrix or John Wick. He's a man who has survived tragedy after tragedy, yet still chooses kindness every single day. His story will break your heart and inspire you at the same time. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change how you see him forever. The furnace of childhood. He was born in Beirut, Lebanon, on September 2, 1964. His name comes from Hawaiian and means cool breeze over the mountains. This made me think of fate written in poems, but the poetry was cut off almost right away. His father was a geologist with roots in Hawaiian, Chinese, Portuguese, and English. He had died before Keanu was 2 years old. When they were 13, they had their last meeting in Hawaii. There were no words, just quiet, which would stay with him for the rest of his life. That silence was passed down to him and taught him how loss can last forever without leaving a trace. Patricia, his mother, was a costume designer and went through several marriages before she found security. The family moved from Beirut to Sydney, then to New York, and finally to Toronto every time she got married again. Keanu didn't have any lasting friends or parties as a child. It was about walls that never kept memories for long enough to matter, and bags that were only half-packed. Stepdads came and went, and brothers from different parts of the family moved in, but nothing ever stayed. Home didn't feel like a safe place. It felt more like a place to rest. He should have been safe at school, but it wasn't. Dyslexia was a problem for Keanu that made reading every book a puzzle. Words moved, letters turned over, and reading quickly felt like a fight. His teachers often thought that his struggles were signs of laziness or defiance. He was called difficult and given a spanking for asking too many questions. As a restless kid, his questions never fit in with the rules of formal classes. He was lost after going to 4 different high schools in 5 years. School became another place where he didn't fit. But while the schools shut down, the ice rink opened for business. Keanu found hockey not just as a hobby, but as a way to stay alive. As a goalie, he was known as the Wall because he was quick on his feet and never gave up, even when things got tough. Behind the mask, he wasn't the boy whose families were broken up and whose schools were moving around. He was a protector, a dependable person, even a hero. He felt like he belonged, had a team, and had a tenuous hope for the future because of hockey. He wanted to play in the Ontario Hockey League, and he even thought about playing for Canada in the Olympics. He finally had a reason to do something, but bad luck hit again. At age 15, he hurt his knee badly and lost the chance to have that future. Overnight, the game that gave him a sense of self and security was gone. For a boy who had already been hurt by being left alone and being unstable, it was another practice session in heartbreak and a harsh warning that happiness can disappear in an instant. The rink, which had been his safe place, became another sign of his loss. It was heavy, but Keanu refused to give up. He would look for another rink if hockey were stolen. This time, it came in the form of a show. He got small parts in commercials, kids' TV shows, and low-paying jobs in Canada. They weren't exciting, but they kept him going and his faith in God. As a child, dyslexia made reading very hard. But when in front of the camera, it became a secret strength. Scripts didn't ask for speed. They asked for honesty. Keanu learned how to be still and let the truth come through in his face and quiet. He changed into something strange during these rough years. Being without his father made him more empathetic. Dealing with words on every page made me patient. He learned to be disciplined on the rink, and he learned to be strong when his dream fell apart. Instead of becoming angry, Keanu used what he learned to become strong and quiet. He didn't grow up in comfort. He grew up in struggle. Every break in his life made him stronger, and that strength would later define his career. The boy, who had already been hurt by silence and loss, would learn that success could feel like another kind of cage when it finally found him. It would be the start of a fight not for life, but for identity. The making of an outsider. Keanu's journey into Hollywood began not with red carpets, but with a battered Volvo rolling across the border into Los Angeles. There were some clothes, a bag, and a dream inside that didn't seem strong enough for a city that was built to crush them. His face didn't fit into the simple types that casting directors liked. He wasn't the perfect main man or the rough drifter. He wasn't quite right or wrong, which made him hard to put at first. They didn't notice the quiet focus in his eyes, though. It was a depth that was waiting for the right story to come out. His first serious parts showed that he had that much depth. In River's Edge, he played a teen stuck in a sad tragedy. But people could tell there was more to it than that. The character was more than just a story because they had weight and a sense of realism. Then there was Permanent Record, where he showed sadness so real that critics began to whisper. This wasn't acting. That was polished to the max. I felt this way because I really did. You can't fake it. For some reason, his pauses seemed more honest than some artists' lines, and people started to notice this. But Hollywood has a way of making big ideas into box office hits. Keanu became well known after Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure came out in 1989. The silly kid who traveled through time became a big deal in pop culture, and all of a sudden, he was known as the lovable airhead. Even though the success was huge, it came with a cage. The label was always there when he went to an interview. People thought of him as Ted, not as serious. For many actors, that jail would have been the turning point in their careers. It was another test for Keanu. He didn't sarcastically respond or try to separate himself by making fun of them. He just stuck to what he was saying. In order to let the work speak for itself, he picked parts that required honesty instead of cheap laughs. The big event was Point Break, which came out in 1991. He wasn't just an action hero fleeing waves and bank robbers as Johnny Utah. He was an exciting and vulnerable guy at the same time. He showed that he could carry a big hit while still making it emotional. In just 3 years, speed would send him through the heavens. One of the biggest hits of the decade was the movie Runaway Bus. Keanu Reeves became famous all over the world. Studios offered him huge fees for sequels, but he shocked everyone by saying no. He wouldn't repeat himself, and he wouldn't give up his artistic ethics for a surefire $1 million. People who work in the field thought it was risky. Keanu saw it as the only way to move forward. His success would be based on honesty and not taking shortcuts. He used that idea to guide him through one of his most important acts, My Own Private Idaho. Critics had never seen a part of Keanu that he showed with River Phoenix. The tenderness, closeness, and quiet vulnerability, it wasn't an act. It was a revelation. The point wasn't to show range, but to reveal the truth. And once more, it was clear that Keanu wasn't just Hollywood's slick technique. He brought humanity to the film through his own scars. During these years, Keanu chose to stay on the outside. He carried those words without complaining. misunderstood, mislabeled, and underrated. He agreed that the only honest road was the one that was slow. If Hollywood kept seeing him as a certain type, he would keep giving them parts that didn't fit the mold. Even if people in the business world thought he was too simple, he would show them that being real could be more powerful than acting smart. But just as Hollywood started to take him seriously, bad reviews and being typecast would be the start of much worse things. A lot of bad things would happen off-screen, and parts that used to feel like acting would quickly turn into reflections of a grief that no one could escape. The losses that shaped a legend. Back in the early 1990s, Keanu's business was on the rise, but his closest friend was River Phoenix. You could say they were brothers in spirit, balancing each other out like fire and stone. River represented wild energy, and Keanu represented calm gravity. Together, they gave the business a rare sense of safety. That balance was broken one night in October 1993, when River passed out outside the Viper Room. It was too late for River. She was only 23 years old. Keanu also lost the friend who had understood him the best. He didn't strike out or say a lot of things to the press. He kept his sadness to himself. It got into his eyes, the gaps in his speech, and the mystery that people later thought was depth. What they really saw, though, was silence, which is like a wound that never heals. Work held him down for a while, but fate was still not over. Keanu met actor Jennifer Syme in 1998, and they hit it off right away. He had never had hope for a family of his own before she gave him that. She was kind and creative. They worked together to make a safe place away from cameras. His dream home seemed possible for the first time when he fell in love. When Jennifer found out she was pregnant, Keanu got ready with a happiness that his friends had rarely seen. But tragedy struck again on the night before Christmas, 1999. Their baby, Eve, didn't make it. Instead of cries, the nursery was quiet. The stolen things were left behind in every part of that room, from the folded clothes to the crib that hadn't been touched. The loss made their relationship heavy, and they couldn't carry it. Grief broke down their tie, no matter how hard they tried. Then, in April 2001, there was another terrible blow. Jen died in a car crash when she was only 28 years old. Keanu's life was split in two at that moment, the before and the after. He didn't carry her coffin on his back like a movie star. He did it like a man who was deeply sad. He never talked about it, but people who paid close attention could see its shade in every step. Even though he was in pain, he had to be strong for another fight. Kim, his younger sister, was told she has leukemia. For years, Keanu's life was split between the bright lights of movie sets and the clean lights of hospital rooms. He changed their plans, bought her a house close to Los Angeles so she would never feel far away, and turned down parts without giving a reason, choosing to stay by her bedside instead. He didn't give speeches or put her on magazine covers to praise her when she got better. Instead, he quietly gave money to cancer research and children's hospitals, making a foundation with no name but his love. His kindness wasn't just for show, it was a way for him to show thanks. There was still room for friendships with him, even with all the rumors going around. Sandra Bullock stayed a trustworthy confidant, and they kept their friendship as a sign of their love. His co-star in Dracula, Winona Ryder, became more like a soul twin to him. Pain as craft. Keanu Reeves has never been lucky enough to be great on TV. Every famous moment he had was bought at a price written on his body. Viewers saw Neo bend reality in The Matrix when it first came out in 1999, but Keanu was breaking himself behind the scenes to make it real. After months of martial arts practice, he was worn out. The wire work twisted his body in ways that humans aren't meant to handle, and a major neck injury could have ended his career before the franchise even started. They joined his vertebrae and told him that he could become paralyzed if he pushed too far. A lot of people would have stopped. Keanu put on a brace, and went back to choreography and went through with it anyway. Not out of pride, but because he thought the audience earned the whole thing. Never a shortcut. His body would be put to the test again with John Wick many years later. The company gave him a second chance at life starting in 2014. He didn't use any camera tricks to change into the killer. He trained with real weapons until his fingers got blisters, did judo and jujitsu until every joint hurt, and practiced car stunts until his body could handle the shocks of every flip and crash. He was bruised all over like a map of sacrifice. Not because he wanted to look tough, but because he saw it as a promise to the crew and the crowd. He wouldn't give twice the hardest moves. He would bleed to show that he was the real deal. But time has its own story. By the latter parts of Wick, the punishment had built up. Every landing hurt his knees, his tendons got stiffer with age, and it took longer for him to heal after each show. On the set of a later project, he hurt his knee in a simple cold immersion scene. He said it sounded like a chip went through his skin. Not only was it an injury, but it also showed that even the strongest bodies have boundaries. Keanu didn't answer with anger, but with humility. He changed. His new habits were long swims, slow walks, and careful stretches. For him, getting better turned into a ritual to honor the body that had gotten him this far. He never made his pain known or tried to get people to feel sorry for him. The pain was kept secret, and the acts were truthful. He was never too strong to beat. It took grit. It broke my heart that his work hurt him, but it broke my heart even more that he carried the pain with grace, turning every scar into proof of his love. And when the lights went out and the cameras stopped, Keanu made something even more rare than cinema, the sanctuary of silence. Keanu Reeves built himself a safe place high in the Hollywood Hills after decades of storms. It's not the loud home of a famous person. There are walls that let in light, a koi pond that sparkles at night, and a lap pool that stretches out to the sky. It doesn't look like it was made by rich people. His nerves are calm after years of chaos because of the words of calm. Even though break-ins made him tighten security, the house is still an open place and not a fortress. She is an artist named Alexandra Grant, and their quiet energy is a perfect match for each other. Their love began when they worked together, then turned into a friendship, and finally into a relationship. They don't need news all the time. They pick and choose which public times to show, and their private lives are enough. They read, cook, and walk through art galleries together. Sometimes they just sit and watch the koi swim by. There is no performance in this closeness, and there is no show in this love story. Now, his work has the same beat. The John Wick story is still not over, but it's also not required. He shows up when the part calls for it, not when the market wants him to. With a cameo here and a lighter piece there, he shows that he doesn't work in a routine way, but by resonance. His band, Dogstar, came back, but this time not with big tours, but with small places that made music again seem like pure fun instead of a business. Literature and comic books are the things that he writes, not projects that follow a formula, but those that follow his heart. His mindset stays the same, even though he is famous. He's not hooked on social media. He gives gifts to stunt teams. Anonymous charities give money to hospitals and cancer research. And he shows kindness in everyday situations, like when he gives up his subway seat or helps a stranger on the side of the road. Keanu doesn't think that how loud you are makes you great. How gentle you are under pressure is how you measure it. He is humble with his body, even though he is 61 years old. He trains hard when he needs to for a role, but he doesn't live a hard life between jobs. Rituals of care rather than conquest. Swimming, walking, and stretching. He sees boundaries not as failure, but as a sign of respect. He knows there are limits, but he shows that honor can grow even when there are ones. Keanu Reeves shows us that pain can shape greatness, and kindness can outlive tragedy. If his story moved you, like, share, and subscribe. And don't miss the next video now popping up on your screen.